The coffee had already gone cold by the time the check landed on the table. I had spent nearly an hour staring through the rain-soaked window, pretending to read emails that no longer mattered after losing the job I had poured 12 years of my life into. My marriage had quietly fallen apart months earlier, my father had passed away without us ever repairing our relationship, and every road ahead seemed darker than the one behind me. Then the waitress placed the check beside my cup, paused for a moment, and quietly whispered that she got off at 8. Those 4 simple words didn't sound like an invitation to romance. They sounded like someone recognizing another human being who looked completely lost. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that small moments can change someone's entire life, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Whispered Kindness. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. I had been coming to that little neighborhood diner every Tuesday evening for nearly 2 months. I always ordered the same meal, always sat in the same booth by the window, and always left before anyone had a chance to ask why I looked so exhausted. The waitress had never asked personal questions. She simply remembered that I preferred my coffee black and that I rarely touched dessert. In a world where everyone seemed too busy to notice one another, she noticed everything without saying much at all. That Tuesday felt different. The rain outside blurred the city lights into streaks of silver. Families laughed together over warm meals while I wondered how someone could feel so invisible inside a crowded room. I wasn't looking for sympathy. I wasn't expecting anyone to fix my problems. I simply wanted one evening where I didn't have to think about everything that had fallen apart. When she whispered those words, she smiled gently and walked away before I could answer. I sat there wondering what she had meant. Part of me assumed she was simply offering conversation. Another part of me almost stood up and left, convinced I would only disappoint another person if they got too close. 8 o'clock arrived. The diner slowly emptied. Chairs were stacked onto tables while the staff finished cleaning. She stepped out wearing an old denim jacket and carrying a backpack that looked almost as tired as she did. Instead of suggesting anything extraordinary, she asked if I wanted to take a short walk through the park across the street because, in her words, sometimes silence feels lighter outdoors than it does inside 4 walls. We walked beneath trees still dripping from the rain. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. Eventually she admitted she had recognized the expression on my face because she had worn it herself not very long ago. Years earlier she had lost her mother unexpectedly, dropped out of college to support her younger brother, and worked double shifts simply to keep their tiny apartment. She explained that grief has a way of convincing people they are completely alone, even when the world is full of others carrying invisible burdens. For the first time in months, I spoke honestly. I admitted that losing my career had shattered more than my finances. It had stolen my confidence. Every rejection email felt like another reminder that my best years might already be behind me. My divorce had convinced me I wasn't enough for the people I loved. Every morning became harder to face than the one before. She didn't interrupt. She didn't offer easy solutions or empty promises. She simply listened. That night lasted barely an hour, yet it changed something inside me. It reminded me that healing often begins when someone chooses to hear another person's story instead of trying to rewrite it. The following weeks brought more conversations after our shifts ended. Sometimes we walked through the park. Other nights we sat on a bench overlooking the river while traffic hummed in the distance. We spoke about dreams that had been postponed, mistakes that still haunted us, and people we wished we could thank one last time. Slowly, hope returned in quiet ways. I updated my resume without expecting much. She encouraged me to volunteer at a local food pantry while searching for work because helping others might remind me that my value wasn't measured by a paycheck. At first I resisted, believing I had nothing left to give. I couldn't have been more wrong. The food pantry became a turning point. I met retired teachers, construction workers, students, and single parents who volunteered despite carrying struggles of their own. No one cared what title I used to have. They cared whether I showed up with kindness and willing hands. Months passed. One afternoon an elderly volunteer asked if I could help organize donations for a local community center. That simple favor introduced me to someone searching for a project manager to coordinate neighborhood outreach programs. It wasn't the corporate position I once dreamed about, but it allowed me to rebuild something far more meaningful than a career. It allowed me to rebuild purpose. When I shared the news with the waitress, her eyes filled with quiet happiness. She insisted the credit belonged entirely to me. I disagreed. Sometimes all a person needs is someone willing to believe they can stand again before they believe it themselves. Life didn't magically become perfect. Bills still arrived. Difficult memories still surfaced unexpectedly. Grief didn't disappear overnight. But each challenge felt lighter because I no longer carried it alone. We had become close friends who reminded each other that strength often grows from shared compassion rather than perfect circumstances. One snowy evening I returned to the diner after finishing a successful community fundraiser that had helped dozens of struggling families. The owner greeted me with a smile and quietly revealed something I had never known. During the months when I could barely afford dinner, my meals had occasionally been paid for anonymously. I immediately suspected the waitress, but she simply smiled and changed the subject when I thanked her. That small act of generosity stayed with me far longer than any expensive gift ever could. It taught me that true kindness rarely seeks recognition. It simply hopes another person keeps moving forward. Years later, the diner remained a special place in our neighborhood. New customers came and went without realizing how many lives had quietly changed inside those walls. Volunteers from the community center often gathered there after charity events. Families celebrated birthdays in the same booths where lonely strangers once sat believing no one noticed them. Sometimes I would watch someone sitting alone by the window with the same distant expression I once carried. Whenever I had the opportunity, I paid for their meal anonymously and left before they could thank anyone. It felt like passing forward a light that had once found me in my darkest season. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, and subscribe to Whispered Kindness. Your support helps spread stories that remind us compassion still exists in everyday places. Special request, please comment with one act of kindness, big or small, that changed your life or that you hope to do for someone else. Your story may become the hope another person needs today. Because sometimes the most life-changing words are not loud or dramatic. Sometimes they arrive quietly, on an ordinary evening, beside an ordinary check, reminding us that hope often enters our lives disguised as simple human kindness.